And so I'm the Director of Teacher Recruitment and Training. And I've been with WI now for about 2 years. But anyway, it's my pleasure to be with you. I'm thankful that you're here. I'm glad that you have taken the time to come this morning and to learn a little bit more about World English Institute. You may have already heard a little bit about World English Institute. And so if you already have, then good, because this, I think, is going to be helpful. Perhaps maybe you can help others, but this is also going to be helpful to you to see some things, perhaps maybe, and consider some things, be encouraged to become a teacher. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to encourage anyone and everyone that we try to reach to become a teacher, because teachers are needed so badly. You notice there on the screen, I noticed that one of our screens actually went down, but we do have the other one over here. You'll notice that I like to say that you can be a missionary from your kitchen table. You can literally reach the world from the comfort of your home, in other words. And if you notice those two websites, these are the two main websites that we have. The .net website is going to be the one that you would access to gain more information if you want to look more into it, and you'll be able to find everything that you need to know. There are newsletters, quarterly newsletters that are uploaded there. You'll be able to meet the staff. You'll be able to see a lot of good things that are happening with WEI. The .org site is primarily for teachers, but it's also for students to be able to go and they can log in. Now, either one of these sites will work if you want to register as a teacher. Either one of these will work because there's the option that's there. In fact, the .net website, this is what you'll find just as soon as it comes up, and you'll find the little button in the middle there that it says register as a teacher. So it will help you in the process of going through the registration, and we'll welcome you as a teacher with WEI. I've got some packets of information right here. I want to give each one of you. Lee, if you don't mind, go ahead and hand those out to everyone. And this will be something that you can take with you. And if you believe that you'd like to take this information back with you to your congregation where you are and give that to some elders, to the preacher, whomever you might feel like would take that and run with it, and just hand that off. I've got several here. We can give you several, and you can actually take that with you. I want to introduce the founder, first of all. The founder of WEI is Brother Dick Adey. Brother Dick Adey was a missionary to Taiwan. I started to say Thailand, but Taiwan several years ago. And he came home. His passion was to reach into mainland China. And so he developed a curriculum that was going to be able to teach English along with the Bible. But then in 1989, after he had developed it fully, in 1989 the door closed in China. But if you may recall, also in 1989, there were other changes that were taking place, and particularly in Europe. And so the Iron Curtain came down, which opened the door to Russia, Ukraine, all of the former Soviet states, as well as Eastern Europe. And he took that very same concept and he applied that then to Eastern Europe. But then since then, it has grown so much and grown so much in popularity around the world. And because of the advent of technology, the internet became so abundant and available so that everyone is able to access it. Now practically everyone in the world has some access to the internet. And so in 2007, it went full-time and completely online. We study English alongside the Bible. Each student receives a grammar lesson in English as well as a reading lesson from the Bible. And so they're able to study side by side. We are open about studying the Bible. We advertise that we can study English. They can study English with us and with our teachers, but we are very open as well about studying the Bible. And so many times students will begin wanting to learn grammar, English grammar, and they might not be so interested in studying the Bible, but before even the end of the first course, we will find our students saying, we really are enjoying these studies of the Bible. They had never had an opportunity to study the Bible. Some of our students have never read the first verse of the Bible until they were able to study with WEI. And so they're able to reach into God's Word. God's Word reaches into them and into their hearts and changes their lives. And that's what we're in the business of doing. We're in the business of changing lives. The study of English and English grammar is a vehicle. It's a vehicle. And it helps them to advance their own careers many times because they're able to perfect their English and become proficient as they possibly can so that they can actually go forward in their own personal life. So they can use that. This is a tool for them to use, and it's free to use. But the greatest advantage is that they are exposed to the Word of God for the very first time, and God is making a difference in their lives. Very often we hear of baptisms that are taking place throughout the world. Last year we had the privilege of being able to study, as you can see right there, we had the privilege of being able to study with over 66,000 students. We had the privilege of reaching into over 200 nations, and with a total of over 435 Bible studies. Now that's pretty amazing, isn't it? That's pretty amazing. When you stop and look at the numbers and think about the numbers alone and the potential that's worldwide now. You know, years ago, I started preaching about 30 years ago, and the Internet was barely getting started, and it was too difficult to use, and so the Internet was practically non-existent. And so when I started preaching 30 years ago, I had my circle. I had my own little circle of influence to work within. And of course, we all still do. But that was pretty much the limit of where I could go. Now, from time to time, I would take short mission trips, and I would extend that a bit and teach one-on-one. But I'll tell you, the Internet has opened up so many opportunities to reach so many people at once so that we're able to have this kind of response from people around the world. And the world, of course, it's changing. And again, once again, I want to emphasize the changing of lives. Now, this photograph that you see right here happens to be a photo. It's on one of our newsletters, and so there was permission asked for this photo to be given. And so one of these men you're looking at right here happens to be a young man that went through the courses, and he became a Christian, and he has now gone through his country, and he has baptized. What's the number? Over 200 now? Yes. Over 200 people. He's baptized over 200 people. He started congregations in his country. And so this gives you and shows you the potential of what this can do. And he's also bringing on more students as well. Now the benefit is that, take for example, this young man, or just missionaries that happen to be from the United States that go overseas, and they're working within particular locations. You know, you can actually work with them by helping them with context through this. You can actually look for folks that are in his locality, and you can actually bring students on, teach those students, get them ready for him to make a contact, and it's a good way to work with missionaries overseas. We haven't had that opportunity. In the past, those who were home have not had that type of opportunity to work personally with missionaries on the field. Now we can. Now we can work with them. And so there again is the amazing blessing of technology in the world today. I want to show you something. I want to read you something here from a couple of students. And these are Muslim students. And before I go too far and forget, about 32%. Last year, 32% of our students were Muslim. And that's because we are reaching into 50 Muslim majority nations. 50 Muslim majority nations. We're reaching into those nations. Those students are signing up as students. Folks are signing up as students. Teachers are taking them, and then we're studying with them. We're studying the Bible with them. They've never read the Bible because they've never been permitted to read the Bible. Now, oddly enough, we advertise through Google, and that advertises into that country, but they don't close the door on us because we're offering grammar, the study of English grammar. So since we're able to offer that and as a benefit, they don't seem to frown upon our use of the Bible alongside it. And so we're able to reach into all of those Muslim countries and gain students, so much so that about 32% of our students happen to be Muslim. But if you'll notice right here, one of my Muslim students is one of my Muslim students, actually, these two. It says, in my country, reading and learning the Bible leads to killing the person who does, but that doesn't matter. Can you think of that kind of conviction in a person? Now, this is an individual who has, he's come along. He started just like every other Muslim student, wanting to learn English. And when he started reading and studying about God and from creation, all of our courses begin with creation. And he began to progress into the Old Testament and the prophecy of the coming of Christ. And then he read about Christ. And one of the things that I would encourage him to do is I encourage all of my students, let's give Jesus an opportunity to speak for himself. Let's listen to him. Let him tell you who he is. He will tell you exactly what we need to know. And so they do that, and they allow him to speak. They become convicted by what he says about himself, and they come to a conclusion that he is all that he claims to be. And so now then, this likewise creates within them a measure of faith that whatever the consequences are, they want to learn more about Jesus, and they want to learn how to become his. Here's another student of mine. He said, I learned that Jesus is a true Son of God. I like the way he put that. Now, these are their words. He is a true Son of God. And so, rather than saying the true Son of God, sometimes you will find that they are in the process of coming to that full realization that he is the Son of God. And therefore, since he is the Son of God, this is in relation to his divinity, his deity. And then he says, and through him is the only way we can enter paradise or heaven. And lastly, Jesus is God sent. And he is also promised, you'll notice the broken English there, to come back to make all his followers that believed him meet God through him. He's getting there, isn't he? He's getting closer. So he's not quite there, but he's getting very close. And that's the kind of progress that you will see when you study with these students. The progress of their faith is gradual. Sometimes they grow quickly. Sometimes they grow very gradually. I like to point this out whenever I'm giving a presentation. I love studying history. I'm just a history buff. And if you stop and think about it, history has movements. There are movements that take place that shape our world in periods of time. And if you'll notice here that in the kingdom, in relation to world history, you've got Pentecost, which was the first major movement. You've got the Reformation movement, which allowed the proliferation of the Bible so that people could actually read the Bible for themselves. Then you have the Restoration movement. As a result of the establishment of the United States of America, the Restoration movement was able to get started and flourish. Then you have the post-World War II generation who went back after the war to countries that otherwise they would have never gone, and they took the gospel and they established the Church of Christ in all of those countries. And then now there's this fifth one. It is global Internet Evangelism. And this is the fifth. I call it the fifth. There's perhaps maybe some other movements that we could list. But this is the fifth in the list here of the major global movements in world history. And we're in the middle of it. And we need to do everything we can to take advantage of it. Because here it is. It's in our homes. The access to being able to reach into the world, it comes to our homes. We use the internet every single day of our lives. And so that access into the world has been made available to us, and I believe this is God sent. I think that God has a purpose. The internet is being used for a lot of evil things, but like I told someone, that Satan is using it for his evangelism. We've got to make sure that we use it for God's evangelism into the world. And this is just one way in which we can. Through World English Institute, everyone can be a global missionary from their kitchen table. And so then the lessons This is the interesting part about it. A lot of those that may be looking at this and considering it, they wonder, do I have to be perfect in my grammar? Do I have to speak perfect grammar? I like to tell people I speak Kentuckian. I'm from Kentucky, so I speak Kentuckian. And so then if I can do it, then you can do it. And so you don't have to be perfect with your grammar. Naturally, we would like for you to be and show as much proper grammar as we possibly can. But I tell my students, I'm not going to be perfect with my grammar. You're going to see my own mistakes. And so here I am speaking English, and it's my first language, and I can't even speak it properly sometimes. And so when you open up like that, you really do open up to the students and let them know, hey, I'm not perfect either, but maybe perhaps together we can learn. And so I think they enjoy that kind of approach. But the grammar lessons are automatically graded. You don't have to grade those lessons. They're automatically graded, and all you do is just send them back to the students. But when it comes to the reading lessons, while they are also automatically graded, you have an opportunity to actually connect with them a bit more on a personal level through the thought questions that are at the end of each study. And so through those thought questions, there will be about 3 or 4 questions, and they will answer them. And sometimes it'll be in broken English. Sometimes it'll be a 1-word answer. Sometimes it'll be 2 words, 3 words, not even a complete sentence. One of the things that I try to encourage my students to do, and I think that this would help you as well, just encourage your students to write in short sentences. And I try to do that too. I try to write in short sentences in reply to them. Write in short sentences, because this is going to help to alleviate a lot of the problems you would otherwise run into with run-on sentences. And so just follow that basic rule and encourage them to practice that. That's going to help you as a teacher to be able to look at their answers. But even more than that, that's just speaking on the grammatical side of it. The biblical side of it, you're going to be able to help them to see the main point that's in that lesson. If they answer a question, for example, with Abraham, what was so unusual about the promises that were given to Abraham? Well, they might say, well, what was most unusual was that God asked him to sacrifice Isaac. Well, that's definitely an unusual request of God to Abraham. But what about the promises? All the promises are through Isaac, aren't they? Those promises, so you're able to kind of steer them in the right direction by pointing to some things that they may have missed along the way. And so then you are able to build kind of that one-on-one relationship with them through that. And by the way, let me mention this before I forget it, and that is that this is completely through the website. They do not know your email address, so you're not functioning as a teacher through your email. This is completely through the program. They write, sometimes they'll write you a message. That doesn't come to you through email. You'll get a notification that they have sent you a message, but they don't communicate through email. And it's all through the program. There's a mailbox within the program that you can communicate back and forth to your students. And so then, as I mentioned a few moments ago, we attract our students through basically Google advertisement. We also rely upon student recruitment, students who recruit other students. Lee and I were just talking about Myanmar. In the past, we've had students to advertise on their own, hey, this is a great program, and put it on social media, and we're flooded with students all at once. And occasionally that does happen. Missionary efforts. If you've got someone that you're sponsoring in a particular field, in a particular city, work through that missionary to reach converts so that he doesn't have to be the one to be out there constantly beating the bushes. You're actually creating context for him. That's a good way to do it. Then there's targeted sponsorship. Sometimes, occasionally, someone will want to target a particular place, and then, of course, they would fund the targeting of that particular location. But on the average, and we're hoping to adjust this perhaps maybe by the end of the month and see how things go, but on the average, it's about $2 per new student. And where can you go? Where can you go in the world as a missionary and reach that many people with that little amount of money, you see. But it does take money. It does take that. And when you look at the numbers, it soon adds up. But that's because of the volume that we are seeing here. Now, this is a picture of the website. If you were a teacher, this is a picture here of what you would find and what you would see. And I always encourage our teachers to make this their landing page. This is the hub, and make this your landing page. Now, I've got the names of my students here blocked out because I want to protect their identity. But you can see how that the students are over on the right hand of the page. All of the students that would be waiting for you to go to their lessons, to review those lessons, they are going to be there. And so you'll be able to see them very easily. But this is called the hub, and this is where I try to encourage everyone to start. And then there's the student board. Right up there next to the hub, go over a couple of spaces and you have the student board. Now I actually updated this yesterday. But yesterday we had 247 students that were waiting to be claimed by teachers. 247. And that's not an unusual day. That's about an average day. And there, once again, where can you go? And you've got over 200 people that are waiting for you to teach. Now, I'm not saying that you, as a one teacher, would have that responsibility of teaching 247. We've got 800 teachers out there. But it does give you an opportunity to go to that student board, and you can actually select the students that you would like to claim as students. For example, here is the student board if it's opened up. And so we have listed here, at the top of the list here, there's actually a couple of Muslim students. I mentioned to you that we have 32% of our students that are Muslim. And we asked those students, where are you from? What city do you live in? What state do you live in? How old are you? Are you male or female? Are you single or married or divorced? The religion, we'll ask them about the religion. And sometimes they'll share that. And many times they do. Other times they'll say none or other. And their score on the introductory lesson will be there. Now let me take just a moment with that. Because the introductory lesson is the way in which they get in. They must score 40% or higher to become a student. And the reason for that is because they have to at least have some proficiency in English well enough to be able to communicate with you as a teacher. I've had different ones ask, well, how many languages do you have to do this? Or no. And I said, just one. It's English. They're going to be studying in English. You're going to be communicating with them in English. And so then we'll test them to see what their proficiency is. If they've scored 40% and higher, they will get in as a student. Now, if they score 40% to 69%, they begin at the elementary level. If they score 70% or higher, they go to the intermediate because their proficiency is better and they can take a bit more complicated English grammar lessons. So that's what that is. I like to encourage our new teachers to do this. If you want some good experiences right off the bat, choose those that score high on the introductory lesson. And all I'm doing here is helping you to get your feet wet. And they are going to help you as much as you help them because their English is going to be much better. So then choose those that score, in the high range. I would say, even 80% or higher. We've actually had some students to score 100%. And I've had students to score 100% and wonder why they're taking grammar because their grammar is better than mine. But many times what they are doing is that they are just gaining more education. They want that education. They love getting these certificates that we offer once they've completed those studies. And so then, they're a lot of fun to study with. I study with Muslims exclusively. I love my Muslim students. And I just look forward to studying with them every single day. I really love my Muslim students. What you'll find is they're very kind. They are just excited to be a student, one of your students, respectful. They don't want to hurt your feelings if they happen to disagree. And I've actually had one or two of my students that will say, this goes quite a bit against what I'm taught in Islam. And I will tell them, here's what I would recommend that you do in answering your questions, because I don't want this to go against your conscience. This is one of the things we need to be careful about in any given situation. We don't want to go against anybody's conscience. I tell my students, in answering the questions, start it this way: according to this lesson, comma, and then give that answer. Or according to the Bible, comma, and then give that answer. I have one student that does exactly that. He'll say, according to this lesson, or according to the Bible, and then he'll say, but I say. And so it's really interesting. He's really come a long way. And, you can get past these little hurdles. They really appreciate that consideration because you're not trying to be authoritative. It's never a good idea to be authoritative with people. Give them an opportunity to honor their conscience and show that you honor their conscience and be able to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Okay, so now that's the student board. And so then you have the opportunity. Now, you'll notice also that you have an opportunity to claim these students. You can claim them, and that will put them right into your student list. And once again, I recommend going to the hub because that's where you'll see that new student. That new student will come right up on the list of students ready to be reviewed. All right, so this is that section I'm talking about in the hub where you would find them, and where you will find all of your students that are ready, have lessons ready to review. Now I want you to notice. I'll just take a second here and go down the list. The top one just submitted a grammar lesson to be reviewed. Adjectives and adverbs. The second student, just below that, is in the advanced course. And so he is reading about American idioms, but he's also reading about repentance. And he's studying about what repentance is, changing my heart and life. And then we have a course which is a supplementary course that is called Evidences. And I have a student here that has worked all through the required courses, and he's now in the Evidences course, and he's studying how that we can know that what we believe is true. And then down below that is the Promised Son. Now this could be the elementary course or it could be the intermediate. Then below that there's a student that studies God gives Abraham a son. That could be either elementary or intermediate. And then likewise the one at the bottom studying about pronouns, and he's studying about Cain and Abel, so he's just getting started. But you can see how simple this looks. And I think that as much as I have tried to demonstrate how simple this looks, it is that simple to work. We try to do our best to make it very user-friendly. In the assignments section, and I'm using the elementary course at the top as an illustration, the assignments come in 2 lessons. Each assignment has 2 lessons. So you have Grammar 1 that matches with Reading 1, and it works horizontally and not vertically. We have a full list in columns, but I try to remind everyone that it works horizontally, and that's the way you will select those in the same way with the intermediate course as well, all of the rest of them also. We begin with the creation. And we work through the resurrection when it comes to the elementary courses and the intermediate courses. It takes several weeks to do that. And so you work with those students for the period of time that they work through those courses. There's no time limit. You can work with them as quickly as they want to work, although we don't recommend more than 2 lessons a day. If you happen to be working with them daily, if you happen to be a teacher that says, I can't work on these daily, so let your students know that I will work with them on it and set them on a schedule, put them on a schedule. I tell teachers, don't let them control you. You control the program. And so because they'll want to study, some of them that will say, hey, can you assign 4 lessons at a time? Well, you can assign 4 lessons at a time. But what you want to do is time to be able to work through these and thoughtfully do so that you can actually reach them with something they might otherwise just quickly pass up. The Advanced English and Bible, don't let that advanced word throw you off. It is a bit more advanced. That's true. It is a bit more advanced. I'm talking about the English. But their English basically is reading and comprehension. That's mostly what they will be working on. Reading and comprehension. And then there's faith and obedience to the bride of Christ. And that's going to be studied from the advanced course. Let me give you an idea about what the lesson looks like. This is just a brief snapshot here. You'll see that they have the score. This student actually scored below 70%. There was a time in which we would send that back and ask them to redo it, but we no longer do that because it was so discouraging with students that we felt like we just needed to help them in another way rather than asking them to redo that lesson. And so we just try to encourage them, let them know what they answered incorrectly, and be able to, if possible, if they want to take it again, offer that opportunity to do so. And sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll take that opportunity. You notice right over here on the right-hand side here, there's an audio section to each one of these lessons, the reading lessons, and they can actually listen to the text being read to them. And so that's been a great benefit to the students as well. Same thing over here. Let's see here. Let me get past here. I mentioned about the thought questions. The thought questions allow you to make a personal contact with them a bit more on a personal level. And this is similar to what you will find with an answer. This happens to be with a student that is studying about Cain and Abel. And so his answer is that Abel meant what he was doing for the sake of God. His heart and sincerity was for God. Now I may have not read it as fluently as he may have written it, but that's not too bad, is it? That's not too bad. So this student is pretty good. And in fact, I think I graded this one and reviewed this one this morning and sent it back to him. And I really commended him for his English. And that's another thing that you can do. If they are doing a very good job with their English, it's a good idea to commend them, because they live in parts of the world where compliments are rare. They're very rare. They may not have ever had anyone to say, wow, you've really done a great job with this lesson. I'm really proud of the fact that you have answered this correctly, or that your English is so much improved than it was from when you started. You know, just compliments like that. They really enjoy those. And it doesn't make any difference if our students are in their 40s, 50s, or 60s, or whether they are just in their 20s. Compliments are accepted the same regardless of what age they may be. And so I encourage our teachers to always be complimentary to our students. Yes?
On your last slide, or your last, where the white, is that where you make the comment?
That's right. That's your space to allow you to make the comments. You can make the corrections. There's an opportunity there to colorize your corrections if you choose to do that. I will usually just underline my corrections if it happens to be a word that's missing, if it happens to be something that they need to add. How much more? It's very user friendly. It is indeed. How much more time do we have? About 5 minutes. Okay.
When you're through, just leave the computer there. I'm going to have to go to a luncheon, but just leave it there and I'll get it later.
All right. Well, let me for the next 5 minutes, I think I've run through this pretty well. I'm not going to take the time to go through the rest of this in a lot of detail. There's another one of the comments of my students. This is a heart-wrenching statement that he makes there. That he says, I feel like my heart is coming out. It's been 15 days that I feel that God is calling me. And so you've got that. You've got there's emotion involved with these students many times because they feel God is really pulling them. And this is the work that God said He would do through His Word, isn't it? His Word's living and powerful and has the ability to reach into the hearts of people. Let me take just a moment, and does anyone have any questions that you would like to ask with regard to this?
I do.
Okay.
Is there information past what you showed us? I'm studying with a lady from China, and we're at the book 3, not on the internet, but by Zoom. Do you have programs past that level that I could study with her?
We have supplementary courses. Now, if you're asking about printed material to be used,
Well, probably not if we can just hook into the internet. I will visit you more this afternoon.
Okay. Okay.
About that because she's amazing.
I think that opportunity is there for you to be able to use that. I really do. Yes.
Whenever you travel and do you continue working with your students by laptop? How do you do that?
Yes. Of course, I haven't been traveling as much as Lee and Tom Langley, but they do. They take their laptops and they work with their students. And regardless of where you are, if there's an internet connection, you can work on those students.
Well, I just started with WEI, I think it was last year.
Okay.
And I find it hard to do it on an iPad. Not the comments,
Right.
but the corrections.
Okay.
I almost want to just forget
Forget the corrections part of it.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'm thinking a laptop might be.
we're hoping to be able to improve that.
Share the tip.
Okay, so what we're working on now is, and it should be released pretty soon, is there's going to be a little button below each one of those responses. And you can click on that button, and it would automatically paste their answers into the comment section, and you can actually work without having to copy and paste or try to type their answers in by yourself. So that's going to be helpful. Whether or not on an iPad it's actually going to be that functional, I'm not quite sure. So anyway, but you can try it.
I'm seeing a laptop in my future.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, I do want to express appreciation. If you would like to have a few questions, if you'd like for me to open this up and show you a little bit more on a live webpage, I didn't want to put it on a live webpage up here because we have so many names. Naturally, we don't want to expose them to the internet because we're being live streamed. But I do appreciate your attention so much, and wish there was just more time. But as it is, I hope that this was sufficient and that you will be able to consider becoming one of our teachers if you haven't already. So then I want to wish you a good afternoon, a good lunch, and thank you for coming and listening.